Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Start the Week with Spencer. This is our weekly webinar here at Doman International, where parents join from around the world with children with special needs. And we invite those parents to ask us their biggest and sometimes their toughest questions so we can help them and their child get start on that path to wellness. So wherever you are in the world, welcome to our webinar. And whether you're joining me right now on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, you can type your questions into the comments box and we will get to them in order. A couple of quick announcements before we get into the topic of the day. Just want to say, talk a little bit about Doman International's upcoming trips. I have Colleen Hudson, who's the Director of Representatives, who's joining me.
Hi.
And so, hi, Colleen. A couple of things about upcoming Doman International trips, seeing children around the world. So I'm actually tuning in right now from the Doman International Center in Europe, which is located in Pisa, Italy. And we have families coming from around Europe, the Middle East, and even Africa for appointments during this trip. And so our next trip to our European center is in January, and we do have some available appointments at the end of January. For other upcoming trips in November, our team is going to India and to Dubai. In December, our team is going to be going to California to do appointments in Santa Barbara. After our appointments in January here in Europe, in February, our team will be going to New Zealand and Australia, and in March, we'll be going to Serbia and Croatia. I think I touched on all of the locations. Of course, our centers, our headquarter is in Philadelphia in the United States, and we also see families in Russia at different times of the year. Actually, we're going to be doing appointments in Moscow in December. So wherever you are around the world, we've got a location close to you. Colleen, did I forget any locations?
No, not that I can think. No, you mentioned Dubai, so
I did.
that's the one that I always forget because it's new.
Yeah, it's new. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're going there for the first time. So one of the topics I'm going to be starting with today is the view of Doman International for children with special needs going to school. Do we recommend school? What do we do with children who are in school who come to the Doman International program? So the first thing that I'll say is when it comes to school, laws are different in every country. And certain families around the world are required by compulsory, because there's compulsory education in their countries, and legally their children have to be in school. In other countries, homeschooling is legal and perfectly fine. So there are countries that have different legal obligations when it comes to school with children with special needs. And then with other families.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Les has texted us. We are not live on Instagram.
Thank you for letting me know.
You got it.
Perfect. Yeah, I just hit the button. So that's the first thing. There are different legal obligations that families have in different parts of the world. The second thing is some families have the personal option of homeschooling. For example, they might have one parent who is stay at home and able to be with the children. And there might be families where homeschooling is not an option because maybe it's a single parent household or both parents must work. And so different families have different choices that they can opt for, depending on their personal circumstances. And then third, different families have different preferences, right? Some families prefer to homeschool. They like that option for their child with special needs. Maybe they feel that way because they're concerned their child might be bullied in school, or they believe that school cannot provide their child academically with what their child needs, which unfortunately is a common problem around the world. Children with special needs often in schools are not receiving the adequate teaching that they need. They're not being taught in the way that they learn best. which is a big part of the Doman method. So I've just covered 3 different things here, right? First, there are different laws in different countries. That's outside of our control. Second of all, different families have different options. Some parents might be able to opt for homeschooling, others can't because of the working situation for parents. And third, parents have different preferences. And so that you can kind of see the different variables at play here for our different parents around the world. So given all of those situations, what is the Doman view of school? So our opinion is that children on the Doman International program, if it's up to us, and as I told you, there are some things that are outside of our control. If it's up to us, we want to send children to school when they can succeed in school, meaning they can do well academically, they can participate in physical activities with the other children with success being included. We want children to be able to succeed socially at school. So we've got the academic cognitive part, we've got the physical part, we've got the social part. And very often, kids with special needs, with developmental delays, are not yet ready to go to school and be successful, right? They might have tough times succeeding academically. They may not be able to play sports with other kids. They may not be socially ready to be in a classroom with 30 other children, which, by the way, I'll just make a side comment, is tough for even average children to deal with. A lot of potential distractions, a lot of competing demands for your attention. So our attitude is, let's send kids to school when we know that they can be successful. So when children come to Doman International, if it is possible for parents legally to homeschool their children, and if that's parents' preference, we recommend to them, all right, let's homeschool your child for some time. Let's do the program intensively. Okay. So, and for some of you listening right now, you might say, yeah, that's our preference. And we're able to do that. That's possible in our family. And perfect. Let's do it. And let's do it as intensive a Doman program as possible. For other families, they might say to us, hey, legally, that's just not an option for us. Like in our country, we are obligated to send our child to school. And in that case, we say, that's fine. We'll work with you. We'll work with the time we have. If that means maybe we can do a bit before school, a little bit of program after school, Doman International will work with those families to make sure with the time that the family has, we can create a program. And then the last thing, I mentioned preference, right? Some parents prefer to send their child to school. Other parents prefer homeschooling. And of course, for the parents who prefer homeschooling, we'll give an intense daily Doman program. But even for parents who prefer to have their child in school, we will work with you to create a program with the schedule, which is workable with your family. And some families will even start our program and they'll tell our team, they'll say, you know what, we want to keep our kid in school. And we say, that's fine. So tell us how much time we have. And sometimes the parents see such good results with the program. They say, hey, we've gotten such good results with 2 hours a day. Maybe, let's reduce the number of hours in school. Let's go to, instead of doing 6-hour days in school, let's do 3-hour days, get more time for the Doman program. Let's get more results with it. And if that's possible, great. But the thing I would want to make most clear to parents is we'll work with you, regardless of the legal obligations of your country, regardless of your personal preferences, regardless of what's possible in your family, we will make it work. And what we need to know from our parents is what's possible, and then we'll tell you what's the ideal plan with what's possible. Colleen, anything you want to add to that? Any other things you think are important, or any other common questions you get about schooling?
I think, I do get the question from parents, when I say that we'll work with your schedule and we'll find the time, presuming school is on the table. Parents will say, well, how much more time after school and I think I get where the question's coming from. They think, oh, my child is tired and it can be so challenging to keep things together anyhow.
Mhm.
Um, do you mind if I tell you what I tell them and then you can
Yeah,
critique my,
please.
yeah. So
Definitely.
so I let parents know, look, we are not in the business of torturing kids and driving parents crazy. That is not our aim. And that our team is not interested in filling every single available second, because that's not necessarily the best thing for you or for your kid. So that we're going to look at, you can tell us reasonably, all right, this is the kind of day we have after school, and we can help you find the good moments. But that also, as children are progressing on the program, that you often find, oh, his energy has improved. We're able to do a little more. Or we've gotten better at doing this part of the program, so it doesn't take as long. So we can add a little something else. So those
Mm.
are the kinds of things that I let parents know, that it is a progress or a progression, and we grow with the child. So does
Yeah,
that seem?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I see a very good question here from Haley, and kind of going to your point, Colleen. So Haley's asking, do we recommend a specific homeschooling program in America? So Haley, the quick answer is no, we don't recommend a specific one for all families, but we do know of certain curriculums that could be helpful. So my advice is for you to reach out to your staff coach and your cognitive programmer, and they might be able to provide recommendations. Now, I do want to say one thing. Uh, a lot of children, when they join our program, especially if they're under 6 years of age, we're starting a reading program with them. Very often, we will be adding math and writing programs. And sometimes these children are 4 years old and they're already getting reading, writing, math at a far more advanced level than what they'd be getting in school. And so sometimes I say sometimes, 99% of the time, our cognitive program that we're giving is more advanced than what a homeschooling curriculum would be, and certainly what an average first, second, third grade curriculum would be. So I say that because sometimes parents will ask me, like, for a homeschooling curriculum, and I'll say, hey, your child's 5 and they're doing a reading program and learning math. Average 5-year-olds aren't doing that, right? So just keep that in mind. Haley says, my biggest concern is putting my child in school after doing our program and him having a regression. So when it comes to kids regressing when they go to school, I have seen children who have had regressions going into the classroom. I'll just be straightforward and honest, because I think a lot of children, especially children who have issues with emotional regulation, can really have a difficult time entering a classroom. First of all, there's a lot of, as I mentioned, distraction. It's often a chaotic environment if you have 25, 30 kids making a lot of sound. And also for certain children, if they have issues with self-regulation, now they're in an environment where you have to control yourself, sitting in a chair for hours a day. So Haley, I think it really comes down to, is that child now ready? And the whole point of the program is to get a child to be ready to do that. Our biggest goal with the program is to help children, gain independence in school and in life. And so and that's why I say, like, we want to send a child to school when we feel and when parents feel they're ready. And so that, in your specific case, it may not be the right time for that, but that's the goal with the program, to get your child there. All right. Well, if you have other questions about schooling, go ahead and type them into the comments box. But I am happy. The plan today was to have a special guest, Natalia, and I see Natalia was having some technical issues, and she's now here. So I'm going to bring Natalia in. Hi, Natalia.
Hi, Spencer. Hi, Colleen.
Hi, Natalia.
Sorry about the technical issues,
No,
but
no, it's fine.
I'm really happy to be here with you today.
It's outside of your control. And listen, if we lose you, we lose you, and we'll bring you in another week. Okay.
Okay.
So Natalia, I wanted to interview you primarily as a mom who's learned about our program and done the program with her child. So Natalia is here to talk about her experience doing the program with her son, Victor. Now, Natalia also works at Doman International, and Natalia's primary role here at Doman International is both as a staff member in our mobility department. So she teaches families mobility programs, but she's also the representative for our Russian-speaking families around the world. She's the first person who speaks to those families. So she's got a lot of professional experience at Doman International. She's also translated multiple of our books, multiple books, so she knows the Doman Method in and out. Natalia, could you talk a little bit about how did you first learn about the Doman Method?
Oh, it's a great story. I moved from the big city that I lived to the smaller one, and found out that I have nothing to do in this area. There was no job for me, like nothing, and I was looking just for something, to occupy myself with, and I found an ad online, we need volunteers for our brain injured kid. Please come and help us with a simple exercise. And I had nothing to do. I was lost, and I was happy to to be useful at least with something. I used to be a journalist before that, but and um, do other important work. But at that moment of my life, I moved to my ex-husband and found out myself with being completely useless. So I used this opportunity to do something nice while I was figuring out what to do with my life. And I met with the mother of the brain injured girl, Arina. We are still friends with this family. And I started to, it turned out they were doing the Doman Method program with this girl, based on books only. Like they've never came to Doman International. They've never learned the Doman Method from anybody else, because it wasn't in Russia at that time. There wasn't a thing in Russia is Doman Method. So they read books, they started to do patternings, they got great results with Arina. She started to crawl, she started to read with this method. And I mean, the moment I saw her, and I was I had some doubts, because I've never I've I've never seen a brain injured kid before this in my life, to be honest, or never pay attention, And again, I lived in Ukraine at that time, and many brain injured kids were just staying at home. Unfortunately, nowadays it has changed greatly, but at that time, honestly, I've never seen a brain injured kid in my life, probably. So yeah, the moment I met this girl, yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but the moment I met this girl, and it's she's still like this. She's pure joy. She's very smiley. She has a great personality, great sense of humor. And the moment I saw her smile, I was I fell in love with her. And then with the Doman Method, because I saw how much it helps her. And though I never seen I had never seen the brain injured person before her, I knew that brain injury cannot be treated. I knew if you brain damaged, there was no solution for that. But then all my world shifted, and I found out that this kid can do the impossible things because of this method. And yeah, then I helped another family in my in the small city that I still live in. Yeah, and then Doman family came to Russia. You had your first course, like a live course, live course at the time. Yeah, and I joined you as a volunteer translator or something like this, I believe. So yeah, I came with one of these families who were, yeah, who I volunteered for, and then I fell in
Yeah.
love with you. Then all this happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was 13 years ago. And so tell me, Natalia, so you started as a volunteer helping out families, translating for them when they came to Doman International. And when you had your son, Victor, when did you start to maybe have some concerns that he might have challenges with his development?
Okay, there are two answers to that. At birth, obviously, because he had like a birth injury, hemorrhages like outside of the skull, but like you never know if it's only there. But I like for several months, like I was in denial, to be honest. And I mean, when the baby's so little, it's difficult to figure out if how big the problems are. Maybe it'd be like compensated just naturally, like we all hope for that. Yeah, and like at 5 months I just realized that they cannot deny this like anymore, like that he obviously has a brain injury. I was not sure of what like level, but yeah, it was pretty obvious. But by the time he turned 5 months.
Yeah. And what were the areas of his development that you noticed a delay most obviously?
Yeah, like he was physically delayed for sure. And I mean, when he was born, um, doctors also like suspected that he may have a cerebral palsy, but um, in Russia at the time, uh, they were giving you like the cerebral palsy diagnosis only when the kid turns 1 year old, not
Mm,
before that. So they wrote something else. Uh, I don't remember what exactly, but basically that meant that the child may have a cerebral palsy.
mm,
So Victor was behind in his like physical development. He was really, irritated all the time. He almost like didn't sleep at all. uh he didn't nap normally, like he would sleep for like 20 minutes and when wake up like shaking, with like his body shaking, really. He like it seemed like something woke him up, and he was crying most of the time during the day. When he was not eating, he would you know be crying. He had some sensory, like obvious sensory issues. Starting with strabismus, and some like even like autistic things. Like he was scratching me all the time. I remember myself being all touched and scratched, and yeah, there were like millions of things like this. And I remember like once Morgan invited me to our like support group, and when I realized that I forgot most of these things,
mm.
like I didn't even remember of this happening. And when I prepared for this, to talk with our parents in the support group, I was like surprised myself how many of these symptoms were there. I could list it like at least 10 different things that was going on.
And so what were the first, I mean, when he was a baby, what were the first Doman Method programs you started with him?
I think I started some tactile stimulations for sure, some visual stimulation. I mean, I started it like right after birth because
Mhm.
like I knew he may have problems, and I started like the incline floor. I didn't have an incline floor at the time. I used some I don't know inclined surface, and I started it when he was like a month and a half, since he was able to hold his head. And by the way, he started to do it pretty early, but the all of other things were really delayed.
Mm.
So yeah, and yeah, so I did the tactile stimulations. I did the like incline floor with him a little bit. There is not that much that you can do with a baby actually, but all the things that I could do, yeah, I did.
Got it. So, what were some of the first changes that you noticed when you began the program?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, it took me a while, like on the one hand, it like Victor is a great example. Since he has like relatively mild injury, he's a great example of like how each part of the Doman method is supposed to work. For instance, when we started patterning with him, he got the cross pattern movement in a day. Like I swear, usually it takes longer, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when he started to crawl, he like pulled himself with two hands that many kids do, and used only one leg. But when we added patterning, like the next day, he started to move like in a cross pattern, and but at the same time, for like it was pretty challenging for him to go from crawling to creeping. It took us like several months to get there. So yeah, with Victor, it's like again, it's very interesting. So for some time he's like on a plateau, and then he like goes like this. So he needs some time, to like absorb the information, and then he has a breakthrough. So
Mm.
by the age of like 8 or 9 months, so it took us like 4 to 5 months to get him, to creep. Um, and like to crawl and creep, like because he crawled just a little tiny bit. No, sorry, I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, he started yeah, he learned to crawl in like several months also of us doing this incline surface thing. And
Mm.
yeah, and it took him another like 5 months to learn how to creep. And again, I'm pretty lucky that I knew the Doman method, so we started really early with him, basically like from birth. Yeah, so
Yeah, and to your point, we see this with many children where there of course there are children with the Doman method who get gradual linear progress, but then there are many children who they might plateau for a little
yeah,
while, maybe a week for some kids, maybe other kids a couple months, and then they'll have these spurts of development. And so sometimes we really have to coach parents through those kind of plateaued periods and say, it's
mhm.
okay, you're doing the right thing, just keep going. Be patient with the process a bit, wait for the next victories to come. So I think Victor is not completely unique in that sense.
Oh no, he's not. I would even say it's like more common probably
Yeah.
to accumulate sorry, accumulate the the sensory information to for the brain. Basically brain needs information, then it can get the outcome. So yeah, I think it's like makes total sense. And
Yep.
every moment when I was like desperate already, like okay, nothing works, like nothing is going to happen, it was like right before he has his next breakthrough. And also, I noticed it in many kids then, like their not condition, but probably like behavior would get worse. They are before this like breakthrough, they getting a little bit worse, like with like behavior wise, maybe sleep wise. Some of the things go down a little bit, and it's very, very important not to give up at this moment. Just know that, but I mean, I had an advantage of knowing that I was doing the right thing, because I saw so many different kids, so many great results, and I knew like if something works, this is like the Doman method. That's what I need to do. And like with the new parents, yeah, they need just to be patient, be
Mhm.
patient, and yeah, they will get results for sure.
One follow-up question, going back to the point of diagnosis.
Yeah.
And by the way, some parents don't like to answer this question, so it's fine if you're not comfortable. But you mentioned that they said, okay, we might give a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. You said that he showed certain symptoms that might be labeled autistic symptoms. Did he ever get diagnosed, or was no diagnosis ever given?
With autism or spectrum or something like this, or
Or cerebral
no?
palsy, was he ever
I mean,
given those diagnoses?
yeah, as far as I remember, shortly like after birth, like maybe he was 1 or 2 months old. Yeah, they gave him this diagnosis that basically means the cerebral palsy only at first year of age. It calls the syndrome of like movement disorders or something, like it's something
Yeah.
um kind of a complicated name for it, but basically in Russia, like everybody knows what this means, that
Mhm.
most likely your child has a cerebral palsy. We just cannot write this during the first year
That's
of
yeah.
age.
Got it.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you. But that's a positive thing. He basically never was given the cerebral palsy diagnosis.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't care that much about the diagnosis, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
But yeah, the point I'm making is that probably because of the work you did, he never got a
most,
diagnosis
yeah.
in the first place, right? He never got that kind of more advanced diagnosis.
Yeah, but by the way, when like this year Victor went to the first grade of like, what's it called in English, primary school,
Primary
like
school. Yeah. Elementary
what's
school.
the like, elementary school. So, and we had to do like the medical check up, and I had an access to all the notes that doctors made, and there were like a couple of things that like were surprise for me. He got an like I think he got an epilepsy is like suspicion, because he had one episode of seizures when he was a baby, like when he was like 9 months or 10 months, maybe, when he had a high fever, and then it dropped down and he had seizures. But yeah, luckily, like after that he didn't have this. And there were like a couple of notes that he like his developmental delayed. He has like he definitely has like a birth injury, and some hypoxia. He's been through some hypoxia, all these things that like were never mentioned to me directly. So
Oh,
sometimes
interesting.
yeah, just put them there in the chart,
Hmm.
and I didn't have access to these like his first chart. So yeah, that's interesting.
Wow.
Oh, and
Um,
by the way, with the diagnosis, his reflexes were what they said, weak, like and then I, evaluated him in you, Spencer. I think you and Elise evaluated him in Moscow when he was almost 1 year old.
yeah.
Yeah, he had like the delay on the level 2 with his like he was 0 at the level 2 with his hearing and intactility as well.
Yeah, I remember that with air horn, he like basically didn't respond to a very, very loud sound. Like he was almost oblivious to, a loud sound like an air horn. Natalia, are you still there? Oh, we might have lost Natalia. All right, we'll see if we can get Natalia back. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm back.
unfortunately.
Oh,
Oh, you're
back.
back. Aha, yeah. I was just saying that I recall he didn't respond to like a loud, threatening sound like an air horn,
Yeah,
which
and he
is
didn't until like 2, maybe, or even 3 years, like
got it.
to
Yeah.
like
And it's
the
for anyone, an air horn is very frightening, but especially when you see a 1-year-old child. I remember him creeping around and we'd sneak up behind with an air horn and it's as if he couldn't even hear it. So out of interest, you mentioned that, you look back at his chart and he had all of these notes, hypoxia, certain diagnoses you weren't even aware of that you hadn't been made aware of. What do doctors say now when they see him?
yeah, I mean, we don't go that often, to the doctors. But again, with this checkup before school, they just said he's okay. Like doctors, like teachers, I mean, I can see some little things, like, but nobody else does. Even
Uh-huh.
the neurologist that observed him said he's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's just regular kid.
So yeah, Virginia's kind of asking a question along that line. She's saying, "Congrats, Mom, and Victor, for your resilience." So she's asking, "How is Victor now? Can you tell us about what he's up to in life?"
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Victor is doing great. He went just this year. He went to elementary school to the first grade. He's doing good there, I would say. Um, yeah, he's just a regular kid. Like, honestly, I forget every time. I forget that he has a brain injury. Of
Mm,
course, there are areas that I can notice, that he's having some difficulties. Like, he needs more time to, like, in writing. Like, his least favorite thing to do is writing. And I mean,
mm,
it's a manual competence, it's a complex skill, so he needs more time than other kids to learn this. But again, like with everything else, he went to school, he was like going like this: okay, I hate writing, I don't like, I cannot do this, it's too difficult. And then he's like, oh, okay, I can do this now. So
mm.
it's like with Victor. So yeah, but he has a great memory. He can learn a big, like, poem, no problem. He's very, like, social. He has a lot of friends. Yeah, I don't even know. Like, he's just a regular boy. I mean, I'm trying to find something that is not like average.
Yeah.
To give an example, that he has a brain injury, but it's difficult even to find such a thing. Yeah, so yeah, he goes to the chess class right now. And oh, by the way, he had like big problems with, like, being hyperactive, having
Mhm.
difficulty to focus and everything. And now in his chess class, like before this class, they have a game where you need to focus really to win in this game, because you need to be able to focus to play chess,
Yeah.
and Victor won twice in this game already. Like,
Wow.
yeah. Like, this is the biggest thing for me, because, like, yeah, I know he has a great memory. He reads, he recites poems. He's good at math. By the way, he went to the math class as well. So yeah, but with the focus and attention and everything, it's a huge thing for Victor, because he still has some, like, problems with, being a bit more active than other kids. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And I want to point out, you're not the first mom. In fact, I hear this from many moms that as their child progresses, their child hits a point where mom can see, of course, wow, my child has gone from here to here, is doing amazing in so many ways, but there's still a few areas we want to focus on and help him in development. And the same professionals who are diagnosing their children years before, or in your case, oh, we lost Natalia. Uh, Hopefully she can join. But what I was saying is that, Natalia, like many moms, has been in this situation where actually she wasn't being fully informed by the professionals, the doctors who are working with her child, about some of the injuries he had sustained to his brain. But now many of those same professionals seemingly don't care or aren't aware of the issues, the small tiny issues that he has. And moms have this sometimes where they say, oh, I can see he's having some challenges. And the same professionals who had kind of diagnosed the child and written them off are now telling the mom, oh, come on, he's fine. He's like, so it's tough sometimes, for parents.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Natalia, if I asked you what 3 Doman Method programs you think have been most helpful for Victor, because he's done a lot of them over the past 6 years, or 7 years, what would you say?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Spencer, but I would go with the physical program first. That's
fine.
why I became like a physical staff member also, because I saw the great results that Victor was getting from it. Like, and it, again, with Victor, with his like relatively mild injury, it was so obvious, so the way we teach parents how it works, that it's actually, that's it, like that's how it works. Like, for instance, this like last year he started to brachiate as well, and he wasn't able, again, he had very big convergence issues as well, and like after a month of brachiating he was able to catch a ball first time like in his life. Yeah,
Wow.
like, and it's again, it's so he's like a textbook. Like it's how it's supposed to work. I know with like a more injured kids, it's it's usually a longer path. We are lucky in a way, because also like I started very very early, basically from birth. But again, it works, it just takes longer sometimes. And I also, again, I volunteered for the kids who were really injured, but yeah, they all got great results. But again, it took them longer than it takes Victor. So physical program, of course, all the sensory stimulations as well. And reading, I would say, yeah, unfortunately I did only, I don't know, maybe 6 months of reading. That was not enough, of course, and not very consistently, because I was getting through some like personal drama at the time, and I just didn't have an opportunity to continue. But even though I didn't like fully teach Victor how to read with the Doman method, it was so clear when that it improved his speech. Like the moment I started to like he started to talk pretty early though, but he wasn't like combining two words together for a while. The moment I started to show him the couplets, like again, like in a week he started combining the words, and now I hear this a lot from
Combining the
parents.
words in his speech, is that right? He
Yes,
started
yes.
speaking the couplets.
Speaking in couplets, but in sentences. And I hear that a lot from parents now. And they were like, they're so surprised that the reading program improves speech. We have once in a while on the Russian course, we have a mother with a mildly injured kid who has some like a little bit of a speech delay, but he's kind of stuck at single words, or just using the very short phrases or sentences. I usually tell them, please don't underestimate the reading. It will help with other programs as well, like mid brain stimulation and everything. Respiratory, but please do the reading as well. And like in a month or a couple of months, usually mother writes me, oh, when we start reading, he got this brain.
Great. It's a great point. When we have children who might speak words but not sentences, writing sentences out for them is one of the best ways of getting them speaking. So that's a great point.
Sorry, just one little, cognitive thing as well to add, that I think that Victor's like good memory and ability to learn poems and stuff, it's also thanks to the Doman method. And I still use, this approach with many repetitions, not demanding from the kid to prove me that he can learn. So I teach this all, my friends, mothers, when you teach your kid a poem, please like repeat it 100 times. Don't demand it back, because usually what parents do, they say the first line and they go to the kid and like ask him to repeat. I'm like, you cannot repeat it yourself from the first attempt. Be honest. Like, you
Right.
cannot do this yourself. You're asking a kid who's like nervous system is still, developing, to learn from one repetition. No, that never happens. So I repeat like with this poem like many times with Victor, and he started to learn poems from like 2 or like 3 years of age. He was taking part at some celebrations in his kindergarten. No, he likes to attention and everything, so he was able to recite the poems in front of everyone, and because we use this approach. So his good memory and like is also because of the Doman method.
Yeah, high repetition, and then don't pressure him to prove
Pressure,
it to you that he's learning. Yeah, great point. Yeah, Vidya is agreeing with you that the Doman Method reading program is amazing. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, you can type them into the comments box and we'll ask it to Natalia, but you only have 10 minutes. Colleen, I know we got some pre-submitted questions. I'm wondering maybe if you could ask those to Natalia and I, and then Natalia with her mobility background might be able to provide some helpful recommendations there too.
Absolutely. So we actually have one from Vidya. She wants to know, how does my child struggle to formulate language when he is at school, but on vacations or after a long break, he is speaking very nicely?
Interesting question. Listen, the first thing that occurs to me, and this is not knowing much about your child's schooling situation, is probably stress and or perceived pressure on your child's part. When children feel pressure, like they're being put on the spot, they tend to do the very opposite of what adults want, which is they tend to become more quiet and go into their shell. And this is why the language development activities that we do as part of the Doman Method are very much focused on things that are fun for children. Natalia mentioned poems, for example. We use a lot of songs and poems which children like to encourage them to speak in longer and longer phrases. So if I had to make a guess, it's maybe your child feels like they're being put on the spot, or they're being evaluated and tested constantly at school. And so, for that reason, maybe they're self-conscious. Colleen and Natalia, any additional thing you'd want to add to that?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just the matter, if it's the matter of like circumstances, so the kid is able to do certain things, but in some circumstances he cannot. It definitely the matter of pressure or something.
Yeah, exactly. Vidya, I think a lot of the things that came up in today's conversation, the reading program can be helpful for speech development. In the books, unfortunately, I don't have one of my books nearby right now, but for example, the Doman Method book has a chapter on speech development with activities. So, I really recommend, different parts of the Doman Method to help focus on speech. Colleen, do we have any other questions?
Yes. We have one more from Olga, and she and I actually had a call last week. She's in the US. She said, what is the one thing you recommend to start doing for a child with an autism diagnosis?
Ah,
Yeah.
the hard part of that is what's the one thing?
Yeah.
Uh, ooh,
I would go with
um,
nutrition probably for the like
yeah.
kids with autism.
Yeah, it's a good answer. And you know, one of the reasons why I hesitate to just pick one thing is that based on an evaluation that we do of the child, the answer might change
Mm.
based on, okay, what's the biggest problem in this child's life? Is it, um, do they have difficulty regulating their emotions? Are they hyperactive? Is it language development? You know, do they have, you know, big academic issues? That's why, you know, when we evaluate a child at our clinic, we're really focused on like, what are the biggest problems in this child's life that's stopping them from being successful? To Natalia's point, the nutrition program is often, you know, a first place that we focus, looking at what are the foods that the child is eating, and then what supplements does this child need? Because gut health, as we know with children diagnosed with autism, is so important. Colleen, do you know if this mom has read the book Answering Autism yet?
I think she had ordered it, so it's on its way
On
to
it.
her. Yeah.
Yeah,
We had a good conversation.
yeah,
Um, but then I sent her the information about the session. I hope she's tuning in. Yeah, so it's a good point though that, and I think that there are so many like diets out there right now. I talk to a lot of parents who say, "Well, we've already cut out this and that, or we've tried keto, or we're doing this," um, and I tell them, and some of them say, "Yeah, we saw some result, which is great," and then others are like, "We're not really seeing any difference. We're still kind of," and then it's a lot of work, to do this special diet. And in that case, I say, well, you do need a comprehensive evaluation of the whole picture for your kid, because diet is an important piece, but for some kids, that's not the first thing that you should be doing, or maybe it's not the right interventions.
right,
Yeah.
right. I think you're right about the right interventions because based on where a child's diet is, we have some children that, to your point, Colleen, come to our clinic and they're already on a gluten-free, casein-free, sugar-free diet, and have been doing so for years. And then we have some children who are still eating a kind of standard American diet. And their meals might be chicken nuggets and pizza. And we have to take different approaches and take different steps with those two groups of children. And we also have to give a nutrition program that feels realistic to the family. And so we do take that into account. And I would urge parents when they come to Doman International to be upfront about their biggest concerns around nutrition, because it really is helpful for us. Sometimes a family will walk into their first appointment at our clinic and they'll say, give us everything. Like we want to know every change we should do with nutrition. We want to, implement whatever supplements are needed. And while other families will arrive and they'll say, we're really intimidated by making a single change in our child's nutrition. And that's very helpful for us to know, because then we can craft goals that are realistic for the family, right? Why waste anyone's time, giving a family a long list of changes to make if the family doesn't think it's possible, right? So that, as coaches, it's our job to hear parents, listen, and then craft a program that parents say, yeah, this is doable. This is the right plan for our kid. Yeah.
When you're a parent who's been fighting with their child for however many years, and you've managed to get them to eat two foods, and you count that a victory, the thought of having to overhaul everything immediately is just so overwhelming. But that's not realistic. We wouldn't say that.
Exactly.
Again, going back to, we're not in the business of torturing children or driving parents insane.
Absolutely not. Colleen, were there any other pre-submitted questions?
No, that was actually it. We just had a comment. Thank you for what you do, which was nice.
Yeah. All right, Natalia, well, maybe Natalia, a good place to end off would be, you mentioned how Victor's development has had certain times where he kind of plateaued and then he had spurts of development. Were there any things that you did during those plateaus that helped you keep going? You mentioned, you've had challenges. There are things in your personal life that came up that interrupted things. That's common. It happens with families. Anything specifically you did to keep going?
Yeah, I did like several different things at different stages. When he was really little, and again, I didn't know the level of his injury, how bad it's going to be, like, and he was delayed in so many areas. I was really, in a bad place mentally. Like, I was really depressed at the moment, and I was just doing some, simple things like the like diary of gratefulness, of and I picked things, to write there that I was grateful for. And I included even little tiny things that Victor was able to do that he didn't before. Like I remember writing that he, tracked the bird in the sky like once, just once during like this month. Like this happened just once, but it was a huge thing for me. And I catch up with this, like just hold on to these little things. Because we all like perfectionists nowadays, and we have such a big so-called narcissistic expectations. We need great results, we need great achievements right away and stuff like that. But no, it's not how it works, especially with brain injured kids. So hold on to these little things, notice them, and they will help you to get through these periods of plateaus. And again, remember that the worst periods are usually before some improvements. And I know that like actually many kids would have like more seizures, for instance, because like brain at the moment needs more oxygen to learn something new. And I know how discouraging that can be. Like I remember like every time I was going, okay, I'm gonna give up, nothing works, like I'm so exhausted, like the next day or the next week or the next month, like there was something worth all this work. So yeah, just hold on, very simple things. Remember that the results are built with these little steps. Be grateful for what you have. And of course, if you have some support, your family, your friends, just yeah, I like my family was with me at the time, and that also helped me to get through this period. Despair, let's say. Yeah, so yeah, this is the other thing, that if you have
Yeah.
people in your life, just ask for the support. Sometimes you need to ask.
Yeah, I'm realizing now that if someone came to me and they said, "Listen, you can pick between one of two parents doing your program. One is a parent who doesn't isn't able to do the program fully, isn't able to do the Doman program fully, but they're able to be patient enough to wait through those periods of plateau." Or a parent who does an excellent program, but is so impatient that they lose all motivation as soon as they hit a plateau. Like if I had to choose, I would pick the the parent who can kind of wait through those periods, because as you're pointing out, like very often the best wins are right at the end of that.
Yeah,
And
in every other area in like of your life. Basically, it's same thing in business. I believe, you know, the
Yes.
most successful business people are those who can handle, you know, this failure for a long enough time. So
Correct.
yeah, you can, if you learn, you know, to handle, you know, the bad times, you will win eventually.
Correct. Great point. Well, I think that's a great point to end off on. Natalia, I see we're over time, but thank you so much for joining today. Thanks for dealing with the technical issues.
Yeah, I'm
It's been a
totally
real
welcome.
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great pleasure to be here today.
All right. Thanks, Colleen. Thanks,
Yay.
Natalia. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, everyone.